Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to give you tips for sailing Sardinia or Italy. I've done one of these videos in the past about sailing Croatia and I thought I would do the same one, but this time about Sardinia, so I have completely different tips. These tips are not generic things that you would find online. They are the tips that I came up with based on my own sailing experience. I'm a qualified skipper and I charter yachts. Sailing is one of my jobs. You know, I'm a freelancer, so I have a few different jobs and sailing is one of them, so I think I'm knowledgeable enough to talk about it. So if you want to see that, then keep on watching. And also, if you care about tips for sailing Croatia, check out the description down below and I'll have that link there as well. My first tip is something that I feel very strongly about. Do not charter a yacht in Sardinia late season. I know the cost will be cheaper than chartering a yacht in peak season for sure, but if you want to charter a yacht late season because of being on budget, go somewhere like Croatia or maybe Greece. When I went sailing late October, early November in Sardinia, everything was shut. Literally, restaurants, bars, cafes, everything was shut. It was unbelievable. I have a Sailing Sardinia series where I basically vlogged every single day of sailing Sardinia, and I can also link it down below. But in that series you realize that we struggled for food because even supermarkets were shut everywhere we went, other than La Maddalena. La Maddalena, which is an island north of Sardinia, was quite lively. It had bars, it has supermarkets, it had shops which were open, which was great. But Sardinia mainland, even very popular harbours like Porto Cervo, there was nothing there. It was like a dead town with not even supermarkets open. For any season outside July and August in Sardinia, I would recommend you to bring some warm clothes because it can get quite chilly and at night it can get really quite cold. Water in Sardinia was really freezing cold. There was not a chance I could have gone swimming or anything. All throughout my trip in Sardinia I was freezing cold at night. The yacht would get very cold, so bring some warm pajamas. I would also possibly suggest bringing a duvet with you. In Sardinia they don't seem to have duvets. A lot of warmer places are like that. Basically they call something a duvet or a cover, and all it is a very thin sheet, you know? They use very thin bed sheets as your cover, as your duvet. But on yachts you definitely need duvets, or we didn't have any, but like I said, I was freezing to death every single night. I kept waking up throughout the night shaking because of how cold I was, and I had so many layers, so many fleeces, jumpers, pajamas on. Even my dad, who was usually really good with a cold, would be absolutely freezing on that yacht at night, you know? So it's not just me. I am a wimp when it comes to temperature, but that temperature was extreme. I just want to assure you guys. So after that experience, actually, when we went sailing in Croatia late season, we brought our own duvets. We actually paid for additional luggage just to have duvets, even though in Croatia they provided duvets, but they were still pretty thin, but they were actual duvets, not just a sheet. But still, remember to bring some nice warm clothes, some waterproof jackets as well. It can get really cold on the yacht as you are sailing in Sardinia late season because of the winds, and the temperature is just not as high, so it will get cold at sea anyway. So jackets, jumpers, waterproof coats. Also expect to have high charter deposits in Sardinia or Italy. Sardinia or Italy might not be the most expensive places when it comes to chartering a boat. Like, the actual charter prices are pretty comparable to Croatia or to Greece. However, the deposits are not, at least not in my experience. All the boats that I've looked at in Sardinia, their deposits were over 3 grand. So just expect deposits in Sardinia to be pretty steep, and if you're okay with paying that deposit, you pay it on your credit card if you've got a credit card. So yeah, if you're fine with paying pretty high deposit, our boat in Sardinia was really quite small. I think it was 32.5 feet, and it was something like 3.5 grand deposit for it for a week. So it was a lot, a big deposit for what it was. In comparison, I'm pretty sure in Greece or Croatia it was under grand, you know, it was either just under or just over grand, but definitely not 3.5 grand. I feel like all my tips about Sardinia are pretty negative. I'm sorry about that. I didn't have the best experience sailing Sardinia for a lot of different reasons, but that's why I want to warn you guys what not to do or what to expect before you choose to sail there. It's still a beautiful place, like La Maddalena is gorgeous, and you are still likely to have a good experience, but I would suggest following these tips because for me sailing Sardinia was just not a great experience. However, this next tip I actually quite like, and that is to expect to park close to the shore so you can step off your boat without using a plank. In Greece or in Croatia, whenever I would do a stand park, I had to keep a distance between the back of the boat and the shore, and then we had to use a plank, you know, to step off from the boat onto the shore. In Sardinia, we barely saw anyone using a plank. Most people, it's kind of like a general practice in Sardinia to just moor really close to the shore and then to be able to step on and off your boat. This has its pros and it has its cons. You know, if you are parked that close to the shore, you have to make sure you have good fenders at the back of your boat. You also have to make sure your lines are all done perfectly, your anchor or your lazy line. Otherwise, you are running at high risk of bashing your boat onto the shore. But at the same time, not using a plank can make life a lot easier, especially for people that don't feel very confident with the plank. I remember when I first started sailing, I would always like freak out about it and be scared to fall off and fall into the sea, which now is so easy and I couldn't imagine not being to do it. However, imagine having a night out, having a lot of drinks out, come back late at night or early in the morning, completely smashed, and yeah, the last thing you want is for your boat to be parked far off the shore and having like a tiny thin plank to walk across to get to your boat. Also, planks can be heavy and a bit inconvenient, so it's nice to not have to use the plank for that sense, not having to like constantly carry it, constantly tie it onto the side of your boat, then try to place it at the back of your boat, then tie it. That takes a lot of time and effort. So yeah, this next step is actually very close to my heart, and I know I need to make a separate video all about this story, but all I'm going to say for this, make sure you constantly check your depth, because you might find a lot of unmarked rocks and shallow patches not even close to the shore, you know. There was no indication of any shallow patches on the map, on the actual map, on the chart. There were no indications that there were supposed to be shallow patches where we were sailing. We were not close to the shore at all. It didn't feel like it. You could see rocks and you could see mountains, but they were quite far away, and there was, like I said, nothing on the chart saying there were shallow patches. There were no buoys indicating that there were rocks. Just really pay good attention to your depth. Sardinia just doesn't have the best buoy or marking system at all. We've actually not seen many buoys whatsoever in Sardinia, like not at all. So yeah, just really be careful with that. And then my last tip, if you're on a budget, avoid Porto Cervo harbour. Porto Cervo has been voted one of the most expensive marinas or one of the most expensive harbours in the world. And just not worth it, you guys. We stayed in Porto Cervo one night expecting it was going to be like amazing, spectacular, beautiful place. And it was dead quiet. There was not really much to it. I mean, it was nice, don't get me wrong, nice views, but we got some even much better views in other harbours in Sardinia, and they were nowhere near as pricey as Porto Cervo harbour. I don't really know why it's so expensive. I know a lot of luxurious boats tend to stay there and it's a destination for a lot of rich people, but I just don't understand why. I didn't see any reason as to why you would stay in Porto Cervo and pay a lot more than staying at other harbours that were cheaper, especially if they're going to charge you a lot of money for mooring there and staying there overnight, then they should provide some sort of entertainment, right? No, they had some designer shops with designer clothes and also some restaurants close to the harbour, but they were all shut, completely shut, dead quiet. There's nothing going on in late season, so in the summer you'd probably have a much better experience with Porto Cervo, but I still don't think it's worth paying so much because we saw a lot of much nicer places. La Maddalena beats Porto Cervo by a mile. La Maddalena was by far my favourite place in Sardinia, whereas Porto Cervo was just not worth mooring fees, in my opinion, but that's only if you're on a budget. If you're not on a budget, then check it out, see what you think about it, because it's still a nice place, it's just not worth the money, in my experience. But yeah guys, this is the end for all my sailing Sardinia tips. I hope you guys enjoyed them. Please like this video if you did, and let me know if you'd like to see more of these videos. I've already done a video about Croatia, so if you want to know about tips for sailing Croatia, I'll leave them linked down below. I actually have much better experience from sailing Croatia, and I feel like in that video the tips were much more positive than this one, you know? But yeah, check that out if you care, and if you want to see these tips about any other places, then let me know in the comments. Also subscribe to me if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!